Hello, friends and listeners, party people. Welcome back to another episode of Party XP. I'm your host, Lakan, and joining me is another guest today. Here's my friend, Andrew. I will also call him Buffa occasionally. Say hi, Andrew. Oh, Andrew or Buffa.
Hey, yo, what is up, party members and NPCs alike? I am happy to finally get this party invite. You know, I've been friends with Lakan and Jeff for, I guess, close to 20 years now.
Has it been that long already?
Yeah, we went to high school together. I met Lakan in freshman year. Ironically, the first thing I remember him talking about was he was like, hey, nice Halo shirt.
Yes, I do remember that.
And
that was in, like, Kernow's class, right?
Yeah,
I want to say,
yeah.
That was like
my first
meeting.
high school class. You know?
Was it?
Yeah.
That was freshman year, right?
Freshman year.
Yeah, because you weren't initially in our school technically before, right? You were
Right, yeah, and then when everyone went to high school, started going to public school,
Yeah.
I was like, this guy likes Halo, it can't be too bad, right?
Yeah, and then you realize, I'm bad at video games.
Well, speak for yourself, I guess,
Listen, I'm bad at video
Yeah.
games. That's it. I am bad at video games. I've acknowledged it.
Certain games,
Yeah, certain games. But yeah, so Buff is a friend, a good longtime friend of mine. He's in our Jeff and I have mentioned it multiple times before, but we have a group chat, and Buff is in that group chat, along with John, that you guys have also got a chance to listen and hear his opinions on video games and stuff like that as well. Yeah, Buff is also in that group chat, and again, we spend a lot of time playing video games together, hanging out in person. We're also real friends. We hang out in person. Yeah. We're actually hanging out yesterday, for matter of fact. And then Buff is actually the guy who I go on video game hunts with. I might have mentioned it previously on previous episodes, and
well, if not, we'll mention it again.
We'll mention it now, exactly. Yeah. I want to say you got me into hunting essentially, or at least more actively hunting.
Yeah. I've always been into the aspect of having physical media in my hand.
Same,
so
yeah.
I've always just been addicted to, I need the cartridge, the whole digital
the disc,
thing.
the box, the
Right.
manual, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm very much so kind of in the same boat. Like I wasn't as big with it. Like I kind of just wanted to make sure I didn't lose any more of my current collection kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then once we started going about, that's when we started seeing more and more of I'll go to a shop and be like, oh my god, I remember all these games that I would borrow as a kid, from Blockbuster.
Yeah, just from Blockbusters
or West Coast Video,
or just going to friend's house.
Yeah, or Pathmark even. I don't know if you remember that, but Pathmark, the one on St. George,
right.
used to rent out video games back in the day.
Yeah,
I remember bringing that up to Jeff, and I think they unlocked a core memory for him. But yeah, the games that I rented during my childhood, never actually had a copy of it for myself. And then we started going to places, and I was like, oh my god, all these games that I'm missing out on and forgot about. I'm like, so I started I kind of went ham for the first time we started going out together, basically.
I think it's our generation also. I've been collecting and playing games since the Nintendo. I had an Atari. So just that thing of holding the game in your hand.
Yeah.
As a child, I don't know, it felt special to me at least.
Yeah, reading the manual because you're.
I would go through the manual time and time again, even though at 6 you're not really comprehending everything.
Yeah, exactly. I remember coming home from the game store, Funko Land or GameStop, EB, whatever it was, right?
Right.
Driving on the drive home from the game store, I'm already unwrapping the packaging and I'm opening up the case and looking at the manual, see if there's any collectibles stuff in there or extra add-ons stuff stickers or whatever.
Right, because back in some games you had to read the manual to get the lore. You weren't getting the story from the actual game. Yeah, or there were secrets in the manual that they only told you in the manual.
Yeah.
I know Star Tropics had that map that you had to put in water physically to find out the password for a dungeon.
Yeah, which is absolutely wild. That
Right.
was kind of their form of piracy, anti-piracy basically.
Right.
Which is wild, but yeah, good.
Yeah, because there's no internet back in the early 90s to find out.
Yeah, so Buff is the guy who we used to go a lot more regularly. Now we've kind of slowed down because we've kind of filled out our collection just to some extent, right?
Also life, work.
It's also a lot of money.
Yeah,
that's
true. Also,
it's one of those,
tons and tons of money.
One of those hobbies that I didn't realize. Once we got 6-7 months in, and I was I've been dropping $200-300 every 2
couple
or 3
days,
weekends. Sometimes every couple of days. I remember
just because in our area there's so many retro game stores, they seem to be popping up more and more now. Collectible stores, all carry that stuff.
Yeah, and especially here in the tri-state, there's a lot of it here.
Right.
In New York, I know there's a couple big ones.
Within an hour radius, there's at least 10.
Maybe even more than that, honestly. Because there's some that are kind of holding the walls we never even got a chance to go into yet. Still, so
right.
But yeah, I started to realize I'm dropping $200-300 every weekend, if not every other weekend. And I remember like there was like 1 week I dropped like $600 in 1 week because
Right.
like a copy of a JoJo All Star Battle came out, and I was like, I have to have it. Because at that point I'd just gotten like really into JoJo, and I was like, oh yeah, I absolutely want this thing. And then
And
like,
then big sad a month later they announced
the
remake.
re-release that just dropped in value. So I just ate like like $200. Yeah, great. I'm terrible with my money management. Anyway,
It's about the experiences anyway.
yeah, it's like like it's the car rides, us shooting the shit for the however
Right.
long we're out and about for, basically, and going to
It is the nostalgia of just going into a store and seeing that game on the shelf again, like
Yeah.
regardless of what it is, whether it's like a Mario, a Zelda, whatever.
Yeah, and again, kind of like unlocking sometimes like a core memory, like, oh my god, I remember this game. Like I haven't seen this since I was like 9 or 10.
Right,
And-
like when you found Uniracer, like that was something that
Just on the-
not a lot of people have ever heard of.
No, and you just spotted it on the shelf, and I was talking about how hard it is to kind of find nowadays because there were so limited copies. But
Right.
It's not like one of those things where like, oh, like it's really in demand. No, it's more just like it's a kind of an obscure game that no one really heard about. And I was like, holy shit, it's there. Here it is. So I was like, yeah, absolutely picking that up. And then like that's kind of like one of the earlier moments of like why I got like that high of like, oh my god, a find, you know what I mean? And
Right.
and then I was like, I'm down to go like every other week.
Right, and that's why I like it, because you never know what you're gonna find. Like especially if you go to a flea market, because you could find some really good prices. People don't know what they have, and
Yeah, exactly. And again, stuff that you've been looking for since you were a kid. So there you go.
Right.
But yeah, so that's a short intro to Buffa. We'll probably have a little bit more to talk about, or just ourselves, and you'll kind of hear more of his stuff when we actually get into the episodes. And much like the other previous episodes, we're gonna have another episode where we kind of just shoot the shit and just kind of talk a little bit more freely about another topic down the line. Okay. But
I'm just happy to be a part of it.
and I'm glad you're here. Thank you for coming through and being ready to hop in, especially now because Jeff's super busy with his tiny him.
Well, like a real party, I'm ready to tank, do DPS, buff, whatever I gotta do.
Yeah. So I'm gonna bring you in. I'm bringing you in here. Even though we are mostly a gaming podcast, we do other stuff as well too. I'm bringing you in.
I wasn't told about that.
Well, so we're bringing you in actually to have you to finally get something done that I've been waiting for you to finally actually like consume this damn thing. Okay. So do you remember a trip to Disney we went to a couple years ago?
Yes.
So we were walking. So Buff and I also are very big fans of Disney.
Is this Powerline?
Yes.
Okay.
So Buff and I are we are like those dudes who show up to Disney World, go through most of the parks and like just eat and drink and have a good time, basically.
Don't worry, that's like all 10 of our friend group.
Exactly.
Do the same thing.
So we had like our friend group would go to Disney World. We go on like a vacation trip, and Buff and I were walking around France in Epcot, and I made like a Powerline reference or like a reference to like a song or something. Or the song might have been playing through the speakers, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is from a Goofy movie," and I even like made like a statement and like a reference to something. And Buffalo goes, "I've never actually seen it," and him saying that there was a girl who was working there in that France section who like vocally reacted.
Yeah, it was like, "What do you mean you've never seen the
Yes,
Goofy movie?"
She kind of like minding her own business and just heard that, and she goes, "Who the hell said that?" and get out of my store. And I was like, okay, cool. So you eventually got to go watch this then. And
Right.
like now it's been like, I don't know, 4 years since we've gone on that trip basically, and you still haven't seen the damn movie.
I started watching it, and then things came up.
See, like I need you to watch this movie to understand why I love this movie, because I do very much so enjoy this movie. So this episode is going to be about a Goofy movie. This is a 1995 animated musical comedy adventure film based on the Disney TV series Goof Troop. It is directed by Kevin Lima, starring Bill Farmer, the voice of Goofy since 1987. Jason Marsden is the voice of Max. Jim Cummings is the voice of Pete. Rob Paulson as PJ. Pauly Shore is uncredited in this one as Bobby, one of Max's friends. And like the highlight for me, Tevin Campbell as motherfucking Powerline. So this is a kind of a movie that like it's weird that like it's kind of in that same realm of like. Now what, like 1997, Mulan came out or so? I want to say, right? Mulan came out, Tarzan came out like 1988, 1999. So, like, I'm trying to think, what was the other movies that came out around that time? 1993, I believe, was Aladdin.
Yes.
Lion King was, I think Lion King was also
90s.
94, 95, I want to say.
Right.
So, like, this movie came out in the middle of a bunch of bangers, right? Like, that like all the childhood like Disney movies that everyone kind of thinks about, this is kind of just right in the middle, and it's a little bit more obscure in comparison, which is, like, not surprising, but also kind of surprising because Goofy is like a long time staple of the Disney world, right?
I feel like in subsequent Disney trips, I have noticed many more Powerline shirts since that comment.
Yeah, so that's actually the reason
it might have, started a groundswell.
It has.
Those comments.
There has been a resurgence of it. I want to say in the last, like, at least within the last 5-6 years, and which is great for me because again, I already love this movie to begin with, and I was like, cool, more people talk about this stuff, basically. And funny enough, even when we were walking around Disney, you found more and more like Powerline stickers, Goofy movie,
or like pins
or
or
pins
blah,
or whatever.
blah,
And we're like, oh shit, like there's more of it, awesome. And it's kind of the things once someone acknowledges it, we started seeing it more. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, there you go, it works out. So for this episode, I'm gonna have you watch it. I know you said you started it, you kind of fell off of it, you didn't actually finish it.
Right.
So we're gonna have you. We're gonna have you sit down, actually watch the whole damn movie.
Okay.
And then we'll have a proper discussion on it and see what your opinions are on it after, like, whenever you get around to it. Basically, we whatever time frame you need to actually finish this damn thing. Because I want you to watch it.
Okay.
Because I think it's genuinely a movie that you actually would enjoy.
Can we watch it together, hold hands? Maybe,
I am perfectly down with that. Are we gonna like interlace toes too?
Yeah, if the mood calls for it.
Score, I'm in. Okay, listeners. So there will be a short break here, and by the time that we are back, Buffa will have seen Goofy movie, and then we're gonna go ahead and talk about his experience with it. See you in a bit.
Maybe.
Okay, listeners, we are back. It has been a week. Buffa got to go ahead and watch your Goofy movie. Buffa, what did you think?
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah?
I don't think I deserve to be yelled at Disney World for it, but
Yeah, I mean, you didn't exactly get yelled at. I think the girl was just like, who said that? Like, why? Why haven't you go?
I guess it was more shock, but
yeah, it was more shock. Not like you're getting berated for not having seen the Goofy movie.
So I mean, I guess the thing was like I didn't have Disney Channel like a lot.
Okay.
When I was a child.
But you didn't ever rented this one like Blockbuster or like West Coast Video or anything?
No.
You kind of just missed this one basically.
Right. I mean, we liked DuckTales, but we didn't watch Goof Troop. Like the TV series. So
I didn't have Disney Channel either, but like I think we had the actual VHS for this one, and then eventually we ripped it to we copied it to a Betamax because we all did, right? back in the 90s and stuff, and we had a bootleg of this one. We just watched it a lot. Like me and Gabe really enjoyed this movie. That's why I was like we'll talk about it a little bit more later at the end, but like there has been like a resurgence of this movie as of late. Like if there's like a cult following nowadays basically for it. Which
I guess the thing is also everyone knows Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and all those people, but I felt like
a lot of people forgot that Goofy had a movie.
Right. I felt like when I was a kid I watched like the Aladdins and the Lion Kings, not like the Mickey or the
bigger movie properties kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
I get you. Yeah. No, absolutely. Like I think that's why I was so excited for this one when I was a kid and I saw it. I was like, oh sweet, Goofy's the funny one to me. You know what I mean? So I wanted to watch more Goofy because like that's who I just enjoyed the most basically. Yeah, Mickey was really wholesome and Donald was usually the one who was like conniving, got up to schemes, right?
Yeah.
And like when Goofy was just like, oh, he's just a kind of like a happy-go-lucky guy who's really again for
like comic relief, oblivious.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of
again, his namesake is Goofy. Like he's exactly that. But yeah, that's good. It's good to hear you at least enjoyed it because, like, for the most part, I don't think I know anyone who doesn't actively dislikes this movie.
I mean, I guess the thing is, like, I'm also watching it from like a 30-year-old perspective instead of like you watching it at 8 years old or whatever.
That's true. Because I definitely didn't watch this in the theater. I remember watching this like later when it was out on video, which would have been like what, like back in the 90s, like a year later or so.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, so I watched it. I was like 6 because again it came out in 1995. So I watched this.
And then I also didn't know that there was a second Goofy movie. So when I looked at it, I was like, wait a minute, which
yeah, Extremely Goofy movie is a direct video sequel. It's not great, but it's not terrible. It's wild because the animation is actually pretty decent in that one still.
Right.
But yeah, it's a bit of a different. It's a very different movie in comparison to a Goofy movie.
Yeah, because I Wikipedia'd the second one because I was like, wait a minute, which one of these am I supposed to be?
I don't know if that was around the. Do you remember when Disney acquired ESPN, or have they always been acquired? Like for like a long ass time.
They acquired them, I believe, in the 2000s.
Okay, so I think Goofy movie was 2000, because they were talking about the X Games. Yes. So it probably, I don't know if that was like before the the acquisition or after, or they were just one of those like contract things. So they talk about the X Games, and then which is like wild to think nowadays, like, oh, Disney movie talking about the X Games. But yeah, so We're gonna go with the typical movie. Whenever I do a movie episode for this podcast, and we're gonna go ahead and do a quick like a movie summary, and we'll stop off at little parts and bits, and we'll have discussions about individual acts or sections of the movie, and then we'll just talk through the whole movie, and then at the end we'll have a short discussion, covering anything we didn't cover during the discussion of the summary, basically. Okay. So we start off with Max's dream with him and Roxanne in a beautiful field or meadow. The dream turns into a nightmare when Max starts turning to does a werewolf transformation into his father. And then they even found a way to turn Goofy's signature laugh into like a werewolf howl, basically, which is kind of like a wild thing, right? I never thought it would be scary. I could never think Goofy's laugh would be scary, and they somehow made it happen. We then see him wake up to a phone call, and a couple's interacting with Goofy being Goofy, the Goofy dad that he is. Max fears becoming like Goofy, leading to a tense relationship between the two. Max finds his father cringy and gets embarrassed by his antics, even with a loving kiss from his father as some skaters ride by laughing at Max. And then we are treated with our first musical number, After Today. It's basically a proclamation that after today, well, there's two messages here. The first is that the chorus the chorus of the singers joining them they're talking about the summer vacation that they're like looking forward to, basically. But for Max, he's singing it from the perspective of he's going to change his image. Everything's going to be different. He's no longer going to be like the goof kid, right? That's kind of his whole like issue essentially of him. He's an actually teenager basically this whole movie, right?
Yeah, he's in high school or is this middle school?
He's like 14, so it would have been like early high school then, or like
freshman, I guess,
or
freshman, maybe middle school or going
at
to
the very latest end of middle school. Let's see here. Just lost myself a second ago. Let's see. He just wants to reinvent himself as not just a goof. It's like literally in the song. It's very straightforward. I mean, it's a Disney song, right? Very literal. We end the song getting interrupted by the school bell ringing, and then Max crashing down the bleachers and getting laughed at by the crowd, but being helped up concernedly by Roxanne, his love interest. Immediately afterwards, Max fumbles the bag, unlearns English, and he looks awkwardly away in front of Roxanne, clamps his face shut, runs away awkwardly, bumps a trash can, just disappears. And I was like, oh, man. I've been there, buddy. I have been there. You mean you actually talk to girls? I used to. Now I'm just giving up at this point, right? Yeah, but real smooth. Like I was like, as an adult, I'm like, I can look at this, I'm like, yeah, that's awkward.
But that's just every teenager.
Yeah, everyone's just awkward and doesn't know how to handle social situations, basically, right? We shift over into school where we see PJ, the one who was on the phone call with Max earlier in the beginning of the movie. Still at the beginning of the movie, and meet Bobby, the last member of their like friendship trio, who that is the one I mentioned before, was voiced uncredited by Pauly Shore, as you could tell. Yeah, Pauly Shore was a thing. Pauly Shore was a thing in the 90s. They have planned to hijack the school's last pep rally of the last day of school, which is wild. Like people even showed up to that thing, right? Where they cut off Principal Mazur's speech and bust out into our first power line kind of jam of the movie, Stand Out. There's on-screen visuals, wireworks, smoke for effect from a fire extinguisher, Max lip syncing and dancing, all run by a 3-man team. The show comes to a grinding halt where we see PJ, Bobby, and Max basically get caught and sent to the principal's office, and you hear them individually getting chewed out, basically. Max gets a small win here, being noticed by Roxanne and somewhat interacting with Roxanne kind of normally, right? He actually has a small dub. And you can kind of tell there's some vibes here, right? There's some vibes. He even scores a date with her to watch the Powerline concert at Stacy's summer party, which everyone apparently knows about. Goofy gets a call from Principal Mazur that Max was dressed up as a gang member, caused a riotous frenzy at the school, and should be raised in a better manner before ending up in an electric chair. That's heavy for a kid's movie.
I was going to say, I feel like
charged.
The principal is the main antagonist of this movie. This movie doesn't happen without the principal.
Yeah, kind of inciting the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's kind of wild. Again, like really intense, but it's like, yeah, it's weird because I guess you can kind of I was like at least at the very least a minor antagonist, right? Because he does kind of cause the inciting event of this movie, basically.
Well, he's voiced by the same guy who was the blackjack dealer in Vegas Vacation.
I forgot his name. I looked him up earlier too, and I forgot to write it down. But he's that actor. He's basically been like everything you could think of if you watched anything from the 90s. Like,
this movie is very, very
90s. Very 90s. It's just like a pure nostalgia hit while also kind of holding up, in my opinion, to like modern standards. So thinking of a way to reconnect with his son, he brings Max on a summer-long fishing trip, ruining Max's plans to meet up with Roxanne. On the way out of town, he stops by Roxanne's house with the funny interaction with her and her father. Who's just this massive burly dude, basically, telling her that he won't be around for the summer, and scared that she'd find someone else to hang out with, he makes up a lie that he will be at the Powerline show on stage, claiming his dad knew him back in the day. And so we hit the road for the next section in the movie. So that's like I'm gonna pause here real quick. We'll talk a little bit about this, but we've already heard kind of interjecting and interacting a little bit with this movie so far. But yeah, as you mentioned, very 90s. Like this movie hits me very hard in the nostalgia, right? Like, the style that they dress everybody with, right? You know, kind of like baggier clothes.
Yeah, really baggy clothes.
The girls, like a lot of the female characters are dressed like kind of in the like Spice Girls-y kind of fashion, right? With like a crop top shirt,
right,
with like, you know, with jeans and whatever. And I was like, that's not gonna pass like school dress codes, unfortunately. Like I was like, this is not realistic.
I mean, I guess, but like today's standards, like they're all just wearing like leggings and stuff.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's
right?
yeah.
So,
It's weird.
I mean,
Are we old? Is that what it is now?
Yeah. The 90s was 30 years ago. No?
Yeah, that is. Oh, Jesus Christ! Just crumbling to dust as we speak. What do you think of the first two musical numbers in this part?
I want to say overall the music wasn't really that memorable for me.
After Today is kind of like what it felt like a Disney song is probably going to be in this kind of movie, right? It felt very very much so that. I think the Powerline song, like it doesn't go as hard, but it's still a very very good song. Like stand out, like. You know, it's clearly he's very like Powerline character is very cool, very much like a star in this like world, right?
Right.
Where like the fact that Max is like lip syncing and dressed as him is like, and people are like amazed by it. It's like, oh shit, like it's like they know it's not Powerline, right? They got to,
yeah,
right? Like,
well, I don't know.
They're dumb high school kids. Are you chalking up to that maybe?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I thought that was like a cool thing. You see them them three being kind of like the you know. They remind me a little bit like Ed and Eddie, you know what I mean? Where you get into schemes and stuff like that. They
a little bit.
I'm assuming they're three like dorks essentially that kind of like can fight their way out of that dork territory and become like a cool kid. You know what I mean? Even though they're all kind of like absurd kind of characters, right?
Right.
I mentioned before the very charged wording from Principal Mazer, like talking about gang members, him getting electrocuted. I'm like, that's kind of intense. I feel like a proper conversation. I know you're upset, but like. You know, you're talking about somebody's kid still. You know what I mean? As a principal, you're a piece of shit. If you just talked about this normally, this whole movie wouldn't have happened.
Well, I feel like this whole movie is about communication because if Max kind of just explained to his dad, like, oh, I have a date, like, can we postpone the trip?
It's funny, or I wrote a note about that at the end. I was like, oh, Jesus.
Or the principal, you know, talking like a human.
Yeah, like a normal person. Yeah, a lot of miscommunications could have been avoided, but then we wouldn't have a movie. I think I mentioned this in the first half, but do you remember in the auditorium scene where it's like, "Yo, Stacy, talk to me." That's Dante Bosco.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like a Star Trek nerd he's uncredited, but like that's him, and it's like it's funny because he still kind of like gets references to that when you go to like see him at Comic-Con and stuff like that. So everyone kind of knows him as like, you know, like Jake Long, Zuko, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Rufio. And I'm like, this is like, he actually mentioned he's heard a reference to this one before, basically. And I was like, that's kind of funny. Like people still actually remember him from this movie, from this one line he did, basically.
I think it's wild also in the beginning that Goofy is a department store photographer.
Yeah, that's really funny. Like
I'm like, that's very 90s.
Yeah, that still exists technically. Kinda, but like I remember those glamour shots that everyone kind of had, like, especially like, you know, like a lot of like my female friends would have those like very soft lighting, you know what I mean, like that like wavy background kind of thing. That was very much so like an 90s thing.
And I guess what Pete is the other antagonist.
He's Goofy's friend. Like they're both dads in this movie.
Yeah, but he's kind of egging him on.
He's a dick, like absolutely. And that's the thing we see Pete and Goofy talking about like being dads, right?
Right.
And you know Pete is like the strict dad, you know, it's kind of abusive if you like hear the way he talks about it, basically. And Goofy,
well, did you watch the Goof Troop show?
Yes, I did.
Were all these characters in the show too?
Pete also had a wife and a daughter in that show.
Does Goofy have a wife, or we've never seen Goofy's wife?
I don't think we've ever seen Goofy's wife. I don't remember the show. It's been a while since I've watched the show.
Okay.
Like once like I saw the movie, I was like, that's it. The movie's the end all be all for me.
Okay.
Because technically also in a extremely Goofy movie, he gets remarried. That's just like kind of what happens basically. Spoiler alert, I guess. Too late now.
So Goofy got 2 women to marry him?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, and just from what we hear, I mean, because again, we don't see his wife and his daughter in this movie, so I'm like, I'm wondering if like if that's something Disney just kind of hoped people will pass over, kids would never notice, kind of thing. I'm like, okay, whatever. But yeah, again, like Pete's like the strict dad. Goofy's more laid back and trying to. And he says he wants to give Max his space. You know what I mean? Goofy's trying to be like, respectful, basically, right? I mean, we see 2 different parenting styles here. It's kind of like experienced it as well as growing up. As a kid, like we kind of noticed, like sometimes my mom would be more loose and kind of let me do stuff. My dad would be the one more strict, basically, right?
Right.
But here they're both single dads, basically, from what it looks like for this whole movie. I
think the most unrealistic thing about this movie is that they're both working in the same department and they both get the same vacation time.
Oh, yeah, right. There's no way that's happening.
Right.
There's no way that's happening.
It's like they're the only two guys in the department and they both give them off.
Yeah, no way. They're not just shutting down the
Right.
photography center for a whole summer, basically. There's no way
Right.
that's happening. They must have lost their jobs. The last thing is like I want to talk about at least in this part for me anyway. We were all goofy kids in school. Like we all kind of the '90s nostalgia hits really hard here, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Pointing out the different cliques and the different groups and how people separate themselves or whatever. And we've all had that extreme like separation. I don't think I've had that extreme separation of cliquiness, right? Our school was pretty good with that. Like we never really felt like
Well, I think you were involved in a lot of different things because you were in band and because you also did sports. It's not like you could be boxed into one.
Yeah.
Since you were in both, like you could talk to everybody.
But I mean, like also our school didn't have that stereotypical '90s like separations. You know what I mean? Like I think that was very much like the kind of thing that kind of faded away over time, right?
No, I still feel like there's cliques and stuff.
I mean, there is, but I'm saying like it's like not that there's no interaction between anything. You know what I mean?
No, I still think there's
Really?
like a nerds and like a popular kids kind of deal.
Maybe yeah, because the thing is when I teach stuff, I only teach individual lessons, so I guess I don't really get the full set seat like full
Because I
picture
still
of
feel
how
like
things are nowadays,
shows
I
that came
guess,
out in the 2000s and like
They still
even
do the same
now they still
tropes now
do that
today.
trope of this is the
cool
jocks
kids,
and
the
this
jocks,
is the blah blah blah,
okay,
the
yeah,
nerds.
Okay, maybe yeah, I could be wrong here. I guess maybe it's my personal experience. I never like had to worry about that whole clickiness thing, but I did have that moment of like trying to reinvent myself, like kind of what Max was doing. Like I get to work for him. Like it's like everyone thought it was cool. Like the day like when the school day let out, right? But it's kind of hard to do in like a summer, right? Without like a big thing like this, where like because everyone comes back to school like 3 months later. You know what I mean? It's like no one's gonna forget who you are.
Yeah, but to me, I thought it was weird because Max, I felt like because he did that power line thing,
It worked for him, I guess.
Right, he tossed the principal off the stage or whatever. That people were seeing him in a different light.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, he didn't really need to do anything else because you saw when Max was leaving school, all the kids were trying to talk to them, and like the jocks were coming up to him, the cheerleaders were coming up to him.
It worked right then and there. But I'm saying like, he was known as the goof kid before that. At the beginning of that day, he was literally getting ridiculed in the beginning of the movie.
Right, but then it's like, oh, I felt like he didn't need to lie to get a date.
Yeah, he already kind of had it working, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. So we'll go ahead and follow up the rest of the summary here, the next part of the movie here. So after a bit of road time and Max getting fed up with Goofy singing, we're in the car at this point, right? They drove off after Roxanne's house. Max pops in a rock cassette, and we get our first glimpse of visible conflict between both characters here, where they both kind of like insert and eject the cassette repeatedly until it explodes.
Was that a cassette or an 8-track?
A cassette. It looks like an 8-track, right?
It looks like an 8-track.
The way it goes in,
the animation, it looks like an 8-track, and I was like, ooh,
but then
that's old.
the magnetic strip comes out, so it's like
right.
I guess technically it's a cassette. They get heated. Like you see, like Goofy actually get visibly like annoyed, for the first time in this movie. Only about 20 minutes in or so, right? We get treated to another musical number here on the open road. Probably the most like.
I felt like this was my favorite song.
This is like the most Disney song, I think. Right? Like, yeah, this is a very fun song. To be fair, keys jingling rhythmically, exhaust popping to for rhythm, and pans on the roof bags clanging, all in tandem. Starts off this fun musical number where Goofy claims that taking a trip away from everything can help clear your head. Max retorts that he'd rather be in detention, or how much he'd rather just be at home. A colorful cast of random drivers and passengers on the road joining in ranging from female country singers to a prison inmate to a bunch of nuns, hostage in a trunk to a reanimated corpse, just all up in the song. After the song, we see Goofy continuing to be a menace on the road.
Well, did you see the Mickey Mouse Donald Duck cameo?
Mickey Mouse Donald Duck. There's a lot
of scene.
There's a lot of references. I mean, even like Mickey was the phone holder, right, in the beginning of the movie. There's which is kind of funny because like they reference Donald Duck in the beginning, right? Remember he's like, yeah, me and my best pal, and Max goes, who, Donald Duck? Oh, Donald Duck, and he goes, no, you, and it's like, oh damn, he ditched Donald, and Donald's hitchhiking across the country apparently. And you're telling me that Mickey has merch, but he has to hitchhike across the country?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess to me the weirdest thing about this movie also is that like most of the characters are Goofy's a dog, right?
Goofy's a dog.
So
the whole cast is a dog.
Right, the whole cast are dogs, but then like, if you watch like a Mickey movie or whatever, it's not
a
like
mix
that.
Of everything.
Right. So how come in Goofy's America it's all dogs?
It's a class system. They're segregated. Yes.
Yeah, but they're in America because they're driving to California.
Yeah,
so
right.
it's like,
Yeah, it's a whole neighborhood of dogs. Yeah, it's kind of weird, right?
yeah, because he's. And as he's traveling across the country, it's all dogs. Like,
It's all
everyone
dog-
at that
yeah, yeah,
Powerline concert
You're
are
right,
dogs.
yeah.
So I'm like, oh, is he in like some sub world?
I've heard some like theories behind it. A lot of it is like tends to people referencing like racial things. So eventually, after the song, we see Goofy again just being a menace on the road, and eventually bringing the car to a stop at a possum-themed roadside attraction thing. Kind of like a possum Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, so here we get barely functioning animatronics, apathetic employees, and weird mascots. Max slaps Lester the possum, the character, and then he gets dragged off by a bunch of children, which is hilarious.
It did remind me of like Five Nights, you know?
A little bit, right? Kind of just like barely functioning,
Right.
but then really creepy at the same time. Goofy takes a picture with a couple possums in a tree to Max's embarrassment, with children calling Goofy a dork, and the crowd pointing and laughing at the fun with some applause, which is kind of he drags Max into like this weird little hoedown thing. A kid calls Goofy and Max Dork and Dork Jr. Max throws on his hat and hanger and runs through the crowd out of the park. And Goofy eventually catches up to Max and asks what he's trying to do, which Max then replies, "Trying to get away from you." We start to see kind of like the relationship, like, being very much so strained in this part of the movie. In the car, like immediately afterwards, once they get back to the car, Max has like a full-on outburst, just about getting taken along for the unwanted cross-country road trip. Just basically just says like, just tell me when it's over. Again, like you see Goofy being visibly like, upset, not having like a retort to this part. Sometime later, they're in the woods with Goofy setting up camp and Max chilling at the river. And the serene wilderness gets violently interrupted when a giant RV comes by, just running over everything, chopping down trees, expanding out like a pool, a jacuzzi, a basketball court. I think it's kind of like what everyone thinks like the coolest machinery camping thing would have been basically when you're a kid, right?
I feel like this is a common camping trope, though, in cartoons, because Hey Arnold did the same thing with like Big Bob, right?
Big Bob, yeah. Hit with the patented bumperizer.
Yeah.
Or tree benderizer or some shit. And it's always like, the big burly character, yeah. And then we find out that it is driven by Pete, and PJ's inside the RV as well. Basically, we see PJ reveal to Max that everyone back in town heard that Max was going to the concert, expecting him to be on stage alongside Powerline. Max then reveals to PJ that it was a lie. So we start to see like kind of his lie now starting to unravel here, right? And he realizes, oh, there's a lot more shit going on now. Meanwhile, Pete and Goofy are discussing parenting techniques, and Goofy wants to give Max more space because every time he tries to take Pete's advice, things go wrong, basically. And Pete again just keeps saying like he keeps doubling down on no, like keep him under your thumb. The closer, the more you can keep him under your thumb, the easier you can keep him in control. And even demonstrating it, right, by like he throws a bowling ball down the lane on top of his RV, leaves one pin up, just yells PJ. He comes up, runs down the lane, kicks it over, and starts celebrating. It's like, yeah, he's very much so like under Pete's thumb, basically. Pete has complete control over his son. Not in the greatest way, obviously, right? It's kind of like a fear thing going on here. Again, there's like a whole discussion here about like parenting, basically. You kind of just see like Max being like confused, and then like Goofy just like he's like slack-jawed, like Jesus, this is what he does as a father,
right?
And then like.
It does go back to what you said though about he probably beats him. Yeah,
it seems like, or at the very least, is an abusive, like it seems like that's like an undertone,
right? Like either verbally or
dynamic, exactly. Yeah. Pete invites the Goof family to dinner, which Max decided to take up on the offer, but Goofy timidly replies they were supposed to go fishing, and then Pete just whispers like under your thumb, Goof. And then Goofy's like, okay, I'll do it your way. He just tells Max, we're going fishing now. And so, Max walks off, obviously annoyed. Goofy's like, okay, we'll roll your way for a bit, right? They go fly fishing, which is, that's kind of like, you see it a little bit in like the trailers for this movie. I do remember those being like a thing. Like they were like, right. Goofy was dressed in like fishing garb, and then there was like a reversed version of it. And like, I want to say on the cover of like the video as well, like the VHS cover.
Yes.
So they go fly fishing, and then Goofy demonstrates the perfect cast to Max, and that's gonna be kind of like there's gonna be like a callback to that later on down the line. While accidentally snagging a steak off of Pete's grill, and while he's showing it off to Max, he launches this little he launches the fly basically and reels himself in Bigfoot.
They run to the car for safety while Bigfoot tears apart their camp and all their gear because they led it back to camp. Pete just hopped back into the RV and just dipped, basically. And because Bigfoot's just there, they can't get out for they're basically
he's running amok in their camp.
And Goofy also realizes he dropped the keys outside while they were trying to run to the car, basically. So very unfortunate for them. And then we have this really like kind of like heartfelt moment here with
this is the first breakthrough between the two.
Because Max is saying that he's hungry, he's annoyed that he's stuck in the car. They see the soup can land on their hood, and we see this, again, kind of like more tension rises up as they're trying to get the soup back into the car. And they have this interaction where they mention Hi Dad soup, and I'm just like, oh, okay, this is like the first kind of thing he talks about, like, you remember this as a kid kind of thing. And they talk a bit more, and they're trying to explain like how this game used to kind of go, and then he has this moment where like Goofy says like I love you, and kind of cuts himself off, and then they both just get awkwardly quiet.
I don't know why, but I feel like I've seen this scene before. Like I don't know if it's just like I've seen it in a clip or
probably
something.
this is like one of the emotional scenes of the movie.
Right.
So it's like pretty big. It's pretty a major part of the movie basically here.
And they were heating it up with what the
cigarette lighter.
The cigarette lighter.
Also very.
And I was like, oh, they would not be able to do that in a
those do not exist anymore,
yeah.
basically. But yeah, so they get the soup. Max hands over the cup set with Hi Dad in the cup, and again at this point I'm just like tearing up. Even as a grown man, I'm just like, oh God, this is it. Oh Jesus Christ. Max goes off to sleep, and then we kind of like fast forward a little bit. Goofy snoring in the car, Bigfoot sleeping on top of the car, snoring up a storm as well too, and you just see Max just red-eyed, just like, I cannot sleep through this, basically. He starts writing a letter, like a postcard, I guess, to Roxanne, basically explaining that he lied. Kind of realizing there's no way he can get out of this at this point. He's kind of
he first was gonna like continue the lie, and then he erased it all and was like, oh,
he has like a change of heart, basically, and then he realizes no matter what he does, he's kind of screwed. In a moment of anger, he kicks to the front dash and opens the glove box accidentally, revealing the map of their road trip.
That's another '90s thing. A physical map.
A physical map, yeah. He starts erasing the last bit and reroutes the trip towards L.A. before Goofy wakes up. The next day at a diner, Goofy tells Max that he'll be in charge of navigation for the remainder of the road trip as a sign of trust and another attempt to bring them closer together. We get a montage of the trip. A nicer one, actually, at this point, with jet skis, flat tire, them changing flat tires, roller coasters, a baseball game, and Max even picking out sites that Goofy would enjoy. Like, they saw the mime, they got to see the world's giant ball of yarn house thing, right. Whatever the hell it was. We, again, like, kind of another breakthrough here. Good father-son bonding moments, basically. They end one of the nights in a motel where they meet up with Pete and PJ again. They split off into dads and son pairs for a bit. But Pete, going to check in on the kids real quick, overhears PJ and Max talking about how Max changed the trip of their destination. Or changed the map of their destination, sorry. And then while they both go to, hang out in the hot tub, Goofy's already in there, but Pete goes to meet up with Goofy in the hot tub.
Yeah, it was a very steamy scene.
Yeah. This is actually like a really tense scene here, actually.
Yeah.
So Pete inquires how things are going between Goofy and Max. He's got to see them kind of like, being a little more jovial and kind of hanging out a bit, right? And then he basically breaks it to Goofy that Max is lying to him and tells him, check the map.
I think that's why PJ is the antagonist of the movie, because he's jealous that Goofy and Max are getting
better
along.
Relationship, basically, yeah. And again, just like Goofy just says he doesn't believe Pete. And he's like, I trust my son. And Pete just restates, check the map. And we hear this really kind of like, it's like, where Pete just goes like, my son respects me. And it just like, you hear from Goofy, it's like, yeah, Pete, and just walks away. This is heavy,
right?
Like it's kind of wild for like, this is definitely like more for like the adults in the movie theater, basically. And Goofy, and again, Goofy says he trusts his son and doesn't need to check it. But walking back to the hotel room, he gets the little brainworm. Goofy stops at the car and hesitates to check the map in the glove box. But frustrated, he punches the steering wheel, knocking the glove box open again, and revealing, the map again. And he sees it. So he walks back into the room, dejected, doesn't acknowledge PJ or Max, and just kind of goes to bed. And we'll take a break here and talk a little bit about this section of the movie now at this point.
I guess the thing is with so Max's plan was kind of dumb because when you're driving, there's always tons of road signs. So when, like Goofy notices like, wait, we're not going to Idaho, we're going to California. This would have came up anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of this. there's obviously a lot of like just like plot contrivances here. Obviously,
Right.
it's a nice. It's
Yeah,
a nice movie.
I understand it's a kids movie, and
Yeah.
you're not, but like I
You're
said,
not beholden to whatever the map says.
right?
too,
I'm watching
obviously.
it as a 30-year-old person. Like, wait, this doesn't make sense. I've driven. I know there's.
I know how to read a map.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more of like the symbolism, obviously here. Right. We're
Right.
talking about like the fact that Goofy says he trusts. His
Yeah,
son
being the navigator, trusting him.
and he's trying to be like, trying to connect with my son in a way that's not, just like being the super strict, dad. Basically, he wants to give his son space, but like have his son like, he wants his son's love. Basically, he doesn't want his fear.
I'll say this though, like even with GPS now, I'm always messing up driving, let alone having to pull out a physical map.
Oh
and
yeah,
trying to...
there was that point when I was a kid. I remember because we took a couple cross country road trips when we were kids, and my dad taught us how to read a map. This is before the days. This is before the days of MapQuest, or like maybe on the early days of it, like still 2000, 2001 kind of thing, right? Way before Google Maps was a thing,
Right.
for sure.
But still, like, knowing how to turn on every highway and, like, making the right turns and stuff, I feel like for a 16-year-old kid who seems completely disinterested about going anywhere, let alone telling him, oh, tell us where to go.
Yeah.
What routes to take, what highways to go on. This trip would have been dead in the water.
Yeah, I mean, it's meant to be like it's
Yeah.
meant to be more the symbolism of it than anything else.
And then I guess I'm offended because I hear Bigfoot is from the Pacific Northwest, and then clearly we're
They
not
met him
there.
in like Tennessee, I think,
Yeah,
when he got
right.
back onto the road. Right, before we hit that montage, basically,
Right.
of them bonding, it was like I think they were like Tennessee or something. It's like there's no way. Yeah, it's like the historical inaccuracies of the movie is unwatchable movie. You're right, Buffa. Funny enough, there's a couple things we see. I think I noticed here when I was watching this part again. The nuns followed them around for a while. They seem to be having the same cross country road trip.
Right.
We saw them from like on their open road song to the diner to the monster car truck rally.
In that the open road montage, is the limo supposed to be Powerline, or it's just supposed to be a limo, and
I think it's
Max is just enthralled with it because it's like a celebrity?
Good question. I genuinely don't know the answer to that one. Actually, I never thought about it. It could. I guess it could be thought it is Powerline if he's on a tour.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it could be for all I know. It was never confirmed because I don't think they ever showed him in whoever's in the
Right.
limo,
I think they just show like him giving like his hand, like doing like a thumbs up or something like that.
Exactly what it was. Yeah, that song's really really fun. I enjoyed that song a lot. That's again, to me like the Disney song of this movie. And I say that specifically because there's another song coming up later on we're going to talk about that is like to me not a Disney song, but it's still a very good song, obviously.
Well, you said you watched this a lot as a kid, right? Like,
yeah,
as a kid, you're watching these movies like every day, kind of, so you know the songs by heart.
Yeah.
Do you feel like how do these songs hold up compared to like an Aladdin or?
I want to say On the Open Road still holds up very well. After Today doesn't really hold up. That's more of like again that's like a nostalgia song, very 90s movie.
But like Aladdin had like 3 major bangers, and then the other songs were also very good. So like do you think that this movie is kind of like a cult classic movie because the songs weren't as powerful?
Maybe, yeah, maybe. But I think but in terms of like a true pop hit, this song absolutely had it.
But I feel like all the big time Disney movies had that one amazing song, like Lion King had Hakuna Matata.
Yeah, I mean their major song. This one is the one later on at the end of the movie,
right?
And that one still is like, it's like people are fans of it, but I think it's more just like people who went back afterwards to realize how good this, how to watch this movie and maybe realize, oh, this movie's not as unforgettable, not as forgettable as I thought it was. Maybe,
but it's no Let It Go or
it's not. But I think Eye to Eye does have that sticking power in my opinion.
Okay,
because in general that one's a really well written song. Have you ever done like a long road trip? Like a cross-country trip?
No.
The
longest we've gone to is Cape May, and that's 3 hours. So.
Yeah, that sounds crazy. Yeah, we've done like the long family road trips, and it's just like again, it's like.
Well, you've done Florida, right?
Florida. We drove to California. We drove through the Grand Canyon on the way back, kind of thing. You know what I mean? We drove down to like Virginia one time, like to the Luray Caverns, I think it was. Yeah, Florida a couple times, and it's like it's funny because I think about it now, is like all the annoyances of like as a kid you're just like, I just want to be home playing video games. You know what I mean? Or like I just want to be home with my friends, right? But then my parents are like, no, we're trying to have a good family trip for bonding. And it's like, yeah, it's like just kind of I kind of like I realized like, oh yeah, that's what Goofy's trying to do here. He's trying to bond as a family, and Max is being the little shitter basically at this point. Because as a kid, you're like I identify with Max. As an adult, I identify with Goofy in this one.
Right, especially we were all like that at 14, 15 years old. That we just wanted to do our own thing.
Yeah,
and,
we want to try to find our identity and kind of have our own.
We didn't want our
live
parents
lives,
embarrassing
basically.
us.
Yeah, exactly. So that's I can understand what Max is going through in this movie, basically. The high dad suit part fucking gets me. Like I will admit that that particular section of the movie is like just like the first couple breakthroughs. It's like yeah, that's pretty heavy now to me, at least as an adult. It hits me at least now. Yeah, the hot tub pool, like the pool scene is like pretty tense. Again, we kind of like have not like a fight, but like definitely like a disagreement on like between Pete and Goofy. And again, we kind of it's like there's some tension there. Again, that's kind of like more of an adult thing. You know what I mean? As a kid, you probably really won't understand what's happening there, but as an adult, you're like, oh yeah, kind of seeing like how if you think about like other friends who are parents or whatever, right? You think about that part or how to be a parent. Especially back then.
In the hotel, it's like there's water beds and it's supposed to be like an under the sea theme.
Yeah.
The light switch on the wall, is that supposed to be like Ariel?
It looks like it's not meant to be exactly Ariel.
Well, it's like a dog Ariel.
Yeah, kind of. It's just not it's meant to be super accurate because obviously they're referencing stuff. There's a lot of referencing going on, obviously. Yeah, like it just feels like a 90s porn set in that just in that motel. It's really creepy. I mentioned before, Pete's a dick. Like, and possibly a bad parent, just an actual, just like an abusive dad. Just from what it seems like, at least, just going on in this movie, right? The way he talks, the way PJ's kind of scared of him. You know what I mean? It's weird because like they have moments of like.
But Pete was a villain in other Disney.
He's like a true villain, but usually in like the Goof Troop stuff or like, the more kind of like slice of lifey, like Disney stuff, he is kind of just like another dad, basically. You know what I mean? He's meant to be just kind of.
But he was what, Mickey's villain, right?
Yeah, he was technically like the foil to Mickey, basically in the earlier stuff. But again, like in this type of like slice of lifey type of like Disney property stuff, he just happens to be like another character. Like it's more just like.
But I feel like you have to give him an edge because if you came to this movie after watching like the Mickey stuff, you would be like, wait a minute, what? Like, why is this guy like a hero now?
Yeah,
so
or like why are they just hanging out with him?
Right, he kind of just had to be like a dick.
Yeah, he has to be something. You know what I mean? And yeah, we kind of see there's a bit of an edge to him. He's not like a full on asshole. You know what I mean? But he definitely has like moments of just being like, dude, like calm the fuck down. You know what I mean?
I don't know. He's destroying the wilderness. He potentially beats his son.
I don't know if it beats, but like at least it seems to be abusive in some sort of way, right?
I mean, the kid's really scared of him. So
yeah, he is, but then he also has moments where like him and PZ like high fiving, and then he pulls a hand anyway, right? Like so, it's like I don't know. It's definitely a weird dynamic. I like it's one of those things like I think.
Where's the spin-off PJ Pete movie?
No one cares enough about that, unfortunately. Or it would be very very dark. I don't think they'd be ready to have that property going on. Thing I noticed here in the motel room, I noticed it. I remember a couple years ago, and I remembered it on this watch. On the TV in the hotel room when Goofy comes back, there's Powerline. They're watching Powerline, right?
Yeah.
And I just realized that's just the footage from the upcoming part of the movie,
right?
And I'm like, I'm not sure if it was an error or they just saved money by not animating another section.
It definitely
basically.
was mostly saving money.
Yeah, but they were using the previous song, "Stand Out." They hadn't leaked like the big number yet at that point. But that was just like, yeah, they were playing "Stand Out," and they were just using the eye-to-eye animations basically.
But then also when big acts like that go on stadium tours and stuff like that,
they do the same thing.
They do the same
again.
songs.
Yeah,
like they'll vary some.
But that's
things
so wild
there,
that they would just show that on TV, right?
Right.
But
well,
yes.
it looked a little grainy, so maybe they did the old like
concert or
Channel
something.
99 thing, and they're watching it all like you used to do back in the day.
It was actually like pay-per-view kind of thing. Yeah.
But you're getting like a little bit of the feed. And...
Yeah. I get you. I mentioned before. Goofy's a menace on the road in this part of the movie. You can, looking at the map while not looking at the road and driving with his feet. I'm like, right. Jesus Christ! This man needs to be arrested. Jesus Christ. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and back to the last part of the movie here. We get a match cut / transition here with Goofy still looking as betrayed and dejected as the night before when he was lying in the bed, right? Before we see Max like awkwardly like try to muster a smile towards Goofy, and clearly the energy is weird for this day, right? Goofy hands Max the map, again because he already gave Max the navigation job for the rest of the trip, right? As they head towards the junction. Max has to make the choice here: go with his dad's route to the fishing spot, or go to L.A. where Max rewrote the map to. So Max chooses to go left towards L.A. Away from Idaho, right, where the map was initially supposed to go to. and then we just get this like kind of like silence for a little bit, right? Like, and like we see.
Well, you see Goofy's demeanor change.
Genuinely like upset, like very visibly upset. He pulls over angrily. They argue for a bit while the car starts to roll off down the road, and then they start hashing out their relationship during this like weird little car chase scene, and then they fall down the valleys down off the road down the valley into a stretch of river rapids where they argue some more, and they basically come up to a head. Where Goofy knows that Max is growing up and he wants to give him his space, but he just wants to be part of his son's life. This is the second part here. I start crying. This is the part, and we get to see more of them making up here now in musical number and reconcile. Unfortunately for them, as they're trying to figure out how Max is clearly explained after the musical number what is happening with him and Roxanne and why he did it in the first place. They kind of did it after the song. Goofy's basically trying to figure out how are they going to get him to LA. Like, he's on his son's side now trying to help him out, which you can kind of hear as the sound kind of fades back in. Unfortunately, as they're trying to do that, they hit more rapids and are headed for a waterfall. Goofy successfully makes it off the car onto some rocks while Max is trapped on the car still. They're floating down the river on top of the car. Luckily, some of their gear that fell off the car earlier into the water catches up to them, like a tarp, some rope, Goofy's fishing rod, and he's able to grab onto it. And we see Goofy trying to chase the car down while Max is still again riding the car down towards the waterfall, and then Goofy is able to catch the fishing rod and hooks onto the car and holds onto it for a little bit, at least slowing it down, right? Max gets tangled up in a tarp and rope from their gear, but luckily wraps him up like a parachute and hovers over the edge instead of falling off the waterfall like the car does, basically. Goofy reaches out the fishing rod for Max to grab onto, and as we kind of have this thing, cool, they're safe. The handle grip starts to slip off, dropping Goofy into the depths below. He dies. The end.
Yep.
That end of the movie.
Scene over.
Exactly. And then credits. Kidding. Max hurriedly flips the fishing rod over and does the perfect cast. So clearly he was listening to his dad, right? During that original initial fishing scene at the river. He hooks Goofy on the pants, reels him back in, and they have this emotional embrace next to the waterfall. Max just says, like, this has been a crazy vacation, and Goofy says, it ain't over yet. Let's fucking go! Transition
in those words.
Transition to LA, baby! And we get the first fucking sense of this absolute banger of an upcoming song. This is the part where I'm gonna pop off here, okay? Max and Goofy snuck into a venue in a drum case and an upright bass case, respectively. And apparently this is Goofy's idea, because Max goes, maybe this is such a good idea. And then he gets distracted by some backup dancer cheeks. Shenanigans ensue while the Powerline concert goes on with the song Eye to Eye. This is an absolute fucking banger. I love this song. Max gets chased by a security guard. Goofy accidentally enters a changing room. Gets slapped by the female performer in there. He stumbles and gets knocked and locked into a stage prop, like a big old Tesla ball. Is that what they call them? Like a Tesla ball, right? Like a plasma globe, something like that. Yeah, again,
those things you touch in the '90s that like
again
would shock your fingers.
Again, very '90s. Yeah, the little arc would go towards your fingers and stuff. Again, very '90s here. And then he gets shocked and explodes out of it when the Tesla globe or the plasma lamp lands on stage, to the confusion of Powerline and the backup dancers. Max yells from the lighting rafter to do the perfect cast, much to Powerline's approval, which he then joins in on. And Goofy does a fucking moonwalk in this movie. This movie fucking rules. This is like such a good part. I love this like last little wrap up part of this movie. Max accidentally flips a light onto the guard who was chasing him's eyes, making him stagger back and accidentally unhook the rafter that they were on. Max grabs the other rope that was holding the rafter up. The guard grabs him, but loses grip and smashes into the large screen display, displaying the concert. That dude's fucking dead. Like, that guy just died, right? But again, in like typical movie fashion, instead of like just a screen dying, it's like fireworks and explosions and sparks and shit.
And all the crowd's going crazy, like, that guy.
Look at that guy. He's absolutely part of the show, right?
Yeah.
No, he just died.
Yeah, he's just dead.
Max swings onto stage, surprising both Powerline and Goofy. Then he busts out the moves as well. And all three are now doing the perfect cast again. And while Roxanne, her friends, PJ, Pete, they're all seeing him on TV now doing the dance on stage with Powerline. God, yeah, this part's just like a fun part, basically. This is like a fun section of the movie for me. I really love this part. So the song ends. Again, the song I mentioned before, "Eye to Eye" is the name of the song for this one. Somehow, the car is still running. They found the car after it falls.
It's missing doors.
It's missing doors, but it's running, and they drove it back across country. And they make it back home. They stop off at Roxanne's house, where Max comes clean about the whole power line thing, and they have another cute, dorky moment, kind of sweet moment together. And Goofy being Goofy puts the bumper back onto the car, which comedically falls off the car as soon as they stop in front of the house, right? Pops it back on. The car explodes, just launching him through the air and then landing partially over Roxanne's porch, where Max properly.
No, he goes through
goes through the porch, like the overhang, the little porch roof section, and where Max properly introduces her to his dad, Goofy. End of movie. Kind of a weaker ending, like the last actual ending part, kind of a little bit weaker in my opinion. But
yeah, I thought they rushed the last act
a little bit, but that last act to me is like. I easily overlook it just because of how much I fucking love this song. Like this song is like, I know a lot of people like I know a lot of this movie for a lot of people I know is a little bit forgettable, right? But like I feel like everyone who like remembers this, who's ever seen this movie remembers this part specifically. Like this last kind of like, it's not even like a third, but it kind of is like the conclusion of the movie essentially. It is really fast. It's like maybe 15 minutes at most.
Yeah, when I was watching it, I like paused it to go to the bathroom, and I was like, "Oh, there's only like 10 minutes left, and they haven't even gotten to the concert."
Yeah,
and I felt like animated movies were shorter back in the 90s.
Yeah, like usually like an hour 20 at most.
Like I feel like if this movie came out now, you would see like, Max and Goofy working together more.
Yeah, instead of
like they would have. Hatched up this plan to infiltrate the place, and then you would have saw them doing that.
Mm-hmm.
They're just in there, and they're at, then they get on stage.
Yeah,
somehow.
they're in. Yeah, it feels a little rushed at the end, but like again, like, for me, I will easily just overlook it just because how fun this last part is, and again, just how much of a banger the song is. Like, I'm no movie critic, right? For me, I'm very easily distracted by like good music, right? I will easily overlook Hercules as being like a not great Disney movie because the music slaps in that movie as well too. Same thing. Like same thing with this movie. It's like it may not be the best movie, but like I love this movie because the music's good. I enjoyed the movie a lot because of it. Yeah, so as I mentioned before, like again, like what your thoughts on the movie? You said it was a decent movie at least, at the very least, right? It's not a terrible. It's not a movie that hasn't held up very, very well over time. It's not.
It's a fine watch.
Yeah, it's fun, right? Do you think it was necessary to watch after all my pestering? Or would you have considered continuing to not watch this movie just to spite me?
I most likely would have considered not watching it to spite you.
God, you're a rat bastard. I mean, like, yeah, I get it. I don't think it's a necessary watch.
I don't. If
because if we're talking about movies of the '90s,
if I'm recommending Disney movies
of the '90s,
this isn't in my top 10. I don't. Well. It's not my top 5.
No, I get that. Like for me, it's like easily my top 10 because it's so fun. Like you know what I mean. It's maybe not be like the biggest. Like I've mentioned this multiple times before, where like maybe not on the show, but at least in conversation with us. I know we've had this conversation before multiple times, especially when we're in Disney, right?
Yeah.
We talk about like Aladdin for me is my number 1. Then like Lion King is a close second. Like Little Mermaid's up there for me.
Yeah.
Tarzan's up there. Beauty and the Beast. Like after like the top 2, I don't really care. Like there's kind of like if I'm just filling it out, honestly.
Not huge on Tarzan.
I like Tarzan a lot. I really enjoy Tarzan.
I would honestly put Hercules over Tarzan.
Hercules is a fun movie. Again, I know there's a lot of plot holes with it, but I don't care because again the music's really good in it.
Again, also though, it's like this movie is meant for 8-year-olds, and they're not
it's
meant
for
children.
Plot holes. Yeah, no, exactly. Like I didn't notice it until I was an adult and I watched it
talking
again.
heads are taught.
Yeah. But like Goofy movie is absolutely in my top 10. Maybe like 7, maybe 8, maybe if I want to consider it, kind of thing. Just because it's just so fun. That's what it's just really. It's a fun movie. That's what it is for me. Does it hold up? I think it got this kind of like second wind because of like the millennials kind of like coming back for this movie. I feel like because I think there's a lot of conversation about like how the Disney movies as of late have felt very like I don't know, samey, but they don't have the same kind of soul to them anymore. There's been that conversation, so I think a lot of people have been kind of looking back at it. And I see a lot. It's funny because I see more video essays about it nowadays than back in the day, right? Like on YouTube, I see people like kind of coming back to reanalyze this, seeing like like why is this movie so popular? Why did it get a cult following, kind of thing. Again, I said before, it didn't really do that well in the theaters, but like after it came
its
to
home video release did well.
It did very, very well. Again, kind of bringing back this cult following, basically. So that's like why did that happen though? You know what I mean? Like why? Because there's a lot of movies that came back to home video release, right? That didn't really do that well afterwards. They already did well in the first place. You know what I mean? They of course they catch the second win in terms of sales, but it's like we already kind of knew. Oh, they're just good movies. We're just going to talk about them all the time.
But Disney did that a lot with like their home video. Like I think Toy Story 2 was direct to video.
There's no way that was direct to video. Was it? No, I'm pretty sure it's got to be in theaters. There's got to be in theaters.
I don't remember seeing it in theaters. Maybe I just missed it.
I'm pretty sure I remember seeing it in theater. I'm like 90% sure. Yeah, because there's no way that they would like because Pixar was so big back then. Like they you know like anything they did was like a project. So there's got to be a thing. But yeah, but like I don't know. Like this movie again like has like a resurgence in the last couple of years. From my understanding, I even actually looked at the reviews from back then. It was pretty meh. Like it was kind of like a, you know. Like it's a 6 or so out of 6 out of 10. You know, as much as I don't really like numbering systems, right? Because it seems just too linear, not really explaining a whole lot. But again, in the last 5 or so years, there's been like this cult fandom uptick to the point where now we see like analysis videos, merch, right? Like again, we went to Disney like in 2018, 2018, right?
Yeah.
And we saw like pins, like we saw like Goofy movie pins. Like back in the day, again, I didn't think anyone who even knew this movie. Like I could talk about this movie back, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8. Years ago, and I'm the only person who has even seen it.
Right, and now you could get like Powerline shirts at like Hot
Topic. I have a Powerline shirt. Yeah. I love that.
Is Powerline supposed to be like Michael Jackson?
So actually, that's actually one of the reasons why kind of this movie has been like very popular within the Black community, because like again, it's like it feels like there's like a really cool popular character who is like a combination of like Michael Jackson, Prince, and Bobby Brown.
Yeah,
like and like he's also visibly like designed darker skinned. As a star character basically in the movie too, so it's like it's kind of cool like a celebrity in the that they all look up to is like a black character. So that's I know I've seen a lot of like analysis videos of like saying like why does the Black community like this movie so much. That's one of the things I realized like oh yeah there's like when I started talking about this movie, I remember like at Comic-Con I see like black people dressing up as like Goofy or Max or as Powerline specifically. I've seen a lot of them. A couple Roxannes, you know what I mean? Like I was like, oh yeah, cool. So but like they're the ones who I see specifically dressing up for this movie. You know what I mean? They're kind of the ones showing up for this one. Kind of again something that I kind of saw. I never really analyzed it, but I was like, oh, that's cool. This movie has like a really big following in the African American community, basically. So that's cool.
I read that Roxanne got cut out of, or she wasn't in the second movie at all.
No, not at all. Like she should have just gone. It's wild. Like. It's like they completely ignore the fact she even existed. Like they never met. I don't think she's ever mentioned at all during that whole movie. Yeah. Again, if you want to watch it afterwards, it's kind of a weird movie. Like it's funny because it's still really pretty decently well animated, but it just has no continuation from like the previous storyline, like at all.
Yeah. So why do you think Max has I guess not been forgotten to time, but like you still see Goofy everywhere?
Yeah. Yeah, because we saw Max when he was younger during Goof Troop. I think ages in the show he was like, what, like 8? I think 8 or 9, maybe like 8 or 9. I think in the TV show.
Okay.
And then we see him like here again, like 14 now, and then in the Extremely Goofy movie, which again basically nobody saw, he was like first year of college.
Yeah.
So 18, 19 maybe, 17, 18, 19, something like that. But then like we don't see anything from him because like I don't know. I think he's just not memorable as a character, right? He's kind of a dickhead son for the most part. He's a little,
I think he's the real villain of this movie just because like everything goes right for him, and he does make up with his father, but he lied and still kind of got his way.
Yeah,
it's a bad message.
It's weird. Yeah. Jesus.
It's like he changed the map. Everything works out for him. He gets on stage with Powerline, his hero.
But they bonded.
He gets the girl. Bonded.
Oh, that's another thing too I noticed about here with Roxanne. Roxanne, like, even though she's like meant to be kind of like the pretty character, right? You can kind of tell she's not like she's popular, right? But she's not like too popular, like, or like outside of his Max's league, right? It's kind of she's clearly kind of like a dork too. She's really awkward around Max. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she's not like the typical like 90s, cheerleader,
kind of character. Yeah. She's attractive, and you again like Max is attracted to her, and like that other dude in the crowd during the pep rally, like he's like trying to like hit on her as well too, right? But yeah,
well, his friend got the student president.
Oh, yeah, that was such a weird thing. Like, as a kid, I'm like, oh, haha, that's funny.
Oh, it's a too nerdy kid.
Yeah, and then like now as an adult, I'm like, there was nothing here that would have led to them having a relationship or even like have an inkling of a relationship. Basically, was
Teenagers.
just teenagers, yeah, just horny teenagers. I did hear this as a funny like kind of comment. I saw this when I was kind of rewatching this movie a couple years ago, and I saw this on like a YouTube comment. Like I was watching like sections of the movie. Someone said like someone commented something like Roxanne was definitely some people's like furry awakening.
We'll leave that at that.
It's like so the two that I always see here is like Lola Bunny and like Roxanne. That's the two that I see. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I don't want to think of Disney characters like this anymore. I'm good.
When did Space Jam come out?
96 or 97, I want to say.
Okay.
I want to say that.
Oh, well,
yeah.
When Michael Jordan came back. Yeah, 96.
Yeah. Let's see.
So this movie came out first.
A year before, basically, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's basically the movie here, but
Another thing was, I don't understand why Goofy was so mad. Like, Max, I guess, did break his trust by changing the map, but Goofy's whole thing was to bond with his son.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, he was bonding with him. They were doing things. They were getting along. Like, what did it matter if they went fishing or if they went to L.A.? Like, I don't understand. Like,
I think that's like the whole traditional thing of like, again, wanting to do what you and your father did to bond kind of thing. And it's kind of the family tradition. I think that's what it was. And, again, he did the whole thing. Like, like
we're going to stop at all the places me and my dad stopped. But
and
it's
you also saw on the map, like, it's from his father and his grandfather, basically.
Right.
It's written on there. It's a lot of like tradition stuff. Like he handed down the fishing rod that was his dad's, and that was his dad's, kind of thing. So it's like a lot of these trying to like bond and kind of strengthen your relationship as father and son by doing the exact same things your father did and his father did, right? I think it's trying to keep the tradition alive. But again, we're getting it's
about evolving as a parent, though.
Yeah, like it absolutely is. But and you can see he does that later on down the line where he allows Max to like choose the things he wants to do. You know what I mean? But anyway, you can see the thing like Max clearly can tell that like Goofy wasn't feeling during that montage scene, right? Like Goofy was like not feeling great after the roller coaster. He couldn't stand how loud the monster truck rally was, right? And so you can kind of see Max like thinking of his dad, like, okay, maybe we'll do something that he wants to do. So they ended up like at the little like French Quarter looking type of thing with the mime.
Yeah.
Also, Goofy committed murder, right? We were talking.
Yeah, he dropped the piano on
he
that
killed
guy.
the mime. And then like they went to the giant again, kind of the goofier like roadside attraction, like the giant house ball of yarn. Like, so these like kind of like quirkier, like more like lame things that would stop off. Max, because again, Max was in charge of all the stops at that point. You know what I mean? So it's like again, he was doing something. He's caring about what his dad is interested or not in, kind of thing.
But I'm gonna say Goofy and his dad didn't stop at the monster truck rally, and Goofy was fine with that. So like, oh, why then did he throw a conniption that it's like, oh,
no, that was Max's choice,
right? Yeah, but he went along with it, right?
Yeah, he went along with it.
So it's then like, oh, Max is taking them to L.A. Why was Goofy then pissed about that?
Because I think the end goal the entire time was the fishing trip. That was his whole thing. Because he even said that was the whole point of the trip. He wants to go fishing with his best pal.
I mean, to me, I think the whole thing was about him trying to get to know his son and prevent him from getting electrocuted or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, if he's bonding with one way or the other, where does it matter where they're going? It's about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, I think it's just because I think we see a little bit of a break here where Goofy is trying to give his son more space, but he wanted, I guess, this is one thing he wanted to put his foot down on, kind of thing. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like,
nah, it's completely out of character.
Wow. Okay. Sure. Whatever. What do you think of the last song, Eye to Eye? I've mentioned this song a lot. This song fucking rules. I love this song, and like I've like it's like this is the one that stands out. In terms of like when people think of this movie. It's weird because I don't think it fits a Disney movie, but like it's so memorable though to me.
Nah. I didn't,
like this kind of like synthy, kind of like just fun
it
pop
was there.
song.
No, it was meh.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. God. But Buffa, get out.
Okay, goodbye.
Yeah, like this. Yeah, it's funny because again, this is one of those songs that like I think like a lot of people like kind of forgot about this movie. Again, like because I mentioned before, like a couple years ago, like I could talk about this, no one would know what I'm talking about. Then like now there's like a resurgence of it, but everyone but at least even the people who did, like maybe watched it forever ago as a kid remembers this song. I think they just remember this song being like a catchy, good song basically, and like. Yeah.
When I was looking up stuff about the movie, they talked about how they talked about it at one of the Disney conventions. So they brought it up there.
D23.
Yeah.
It was I want to say it was the anniversary of a Goofy movie.
So it was already closer to 10 years ago, but you know, like they mentioned it there, and I feel like that, you know, them bringing it back to light probably caused a groundswell.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, because I want to say that was like 25th or the 20th anniversary. I think it was.
Mhm.
So yeah, 2015, right? That would have been it.
Yeah, give or
Yeah,
take.
I think that's when the video came out. That when Tevin Campbell showed up again to perform the song again. Yeah, again, like, I think it's probably actually that. Yeah, no, you're thinking about it. Yeah, that's probably why it had a big resurgence, because there probably was a small, at least at the very least, a small push to bring the show back into everyone's consciousness, kind of thing. But yeah, again, it's like a good, fun song. Again, it doesn't really fit the movie, in my opinion, because the previous songs before this, aside from "Stand Out," obviously, because that was also like meant to be like a power line song, right? Those two like are just full on pop songs that are kind of just in a Disney movie. You know what I mean? While the other ones were more kind of like, you know, again, kind of like because like "Out on the Open Road" to me is like the most Disney song,
Right.
or actually technically, I guess like "Nobody Else But You," right? The one they sang on the river.
Yeah.
Also, like very much like a Disney song, right? Because it's like
it had a message.
The true duet had a message, and like just the emotional breakthrough song. It's like, okay, yeah, that's cool. Also a good song. I enjoyed that one very much. I don't think I ever mentioned the name of it earlier, but yeah, it's a good song. Again, we could see more of them hashing out their relationship as father and son. So, yeah, again, I see it, like, especially now that I watched it, like now as an adult. Again, as a kid, I identified with Max. You know what I mean? As an adult, I'm like, man, Goofy's just trying to be a good dad, Max. Stop being a little shit.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, I understand why Max is angry.
Yeah, he's an angsty teenager, basically. There's a lot of it, especially in...
There's cheeks to be clapped, you know?
Jesus Christ. Yeah, but again, that's kind of all I've got, at least note-wise, from me. Is there anything you want to point it out before we wrap this up?
I'll stick with DuckTales, I think.
Wow. That's fine. I'll continue to enjoy this movie. But at least you finally got to watch it. That's like one of those things that I was like, I just wanted to at least finally watch it, because like, again, like, you were doing it to spite me, but like I just knew thinking, what about at the very least enjoy the movie, you know? It's not a terrible watch, at least for everybody's
right.
sake,
like,
you know what I mean?
you know, if you put it on for your kids, they'll enjoy it.
Yeah, it's fun enough, and again, there's enough there for like adults.
Yeah,
to watch it.
There's enough goofiness. You know?
Yeah, it's fun. But yeah, so I guess that's really it for us for this episode, guys. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in for this one. I know that these movie episodes are a little bit weird compared to our usual video game content, but thank you guys for tuning in for these ones. I really enjoy doing this movie stuff, basically. And
we're all nerds. We all like movies and video
TV
games
shows.
And
Yeah, exactly.
shows,
so we know those.
We all have different interests.
Yeah, we know like first and foremost like a gaming podcast, but you know, again, we have stuff we enjoy that's not just video games.
I mean, you have the Goof Troop game though, right?
I do. I picked that up.
You can talk
recently.
about a little bit about that.
Yeah. But guys, thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Give us a like or leave us a comment on any and whatever audio streaming platform you guys are currently listening to us on. Again, Jeff and I will be trying to get our stuff on YouTube eventually for you guys for who prefer watching long form content on YouTube.
And you get to see our ugly mugs.
Yeah, kind of. Well, we're still trying to see what we're trying to do for the.
No, just close up face.
Just an extreme zoomed in up the nostrils.
Yeah, up the nostrils.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you guys everyone for tuning in, and see you guys in the next episode. Take care.
Peace. We were riding the Frozen ride. The lady was like, "No, you two Asians in the back." We're like, "What? Huh?"
Yeah, she pulled us out immediately. I was like, "Excuse us? What do we do?"
It's like, "No, the three white guys in the front, you two in the back." We're like, "Huh? What?"